if we've learned anything from 2020 and 2021, is that the things will change. But what a lot of cruisers, a lot of cruise faithful don't realize is that things could change from the time you book your cruise to even the time you go on your cruise. In today's episode, 13 things that could change before you cruise. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with what I feel like some really good practical cruise tips. Some things you got to tuck away in your mind so that you're not surprised when they happen. 13 things that could change before your cruise even starts. But before we get to the list, I want to give a big shout out and a thank you to the sponsor for today's show, Babbel. Babbel, what can I say? The Babbel method, created by language and technology experts, 13,000 hours of content, 50,000 lessons across 14 languages, and so many different ways to learn. Are you an auditory learner? Are you a visual learner? They've got lessons, they've got games, and I've been dipping into podcasts. Here's some sample audio from the Zero to Hero podcast.
I have some friends who live in Spain whom I visited before, and apart from una cerveza, dos sangrías, I haven't got much further than that in terms of speaking Spanish.
Is that anybody else? You just know a few words and dos sangrias. And let me say this, I believe you're a cruiser, if you're a traveler, you've got that bug. Part of that is the curiosity about the location that you're going to, and there's no better way to understand the location that you're going to than to understand the language. And let me tell you what, Babbel is a really easy way to get up to speed quickly on the language. And of course, one of the reasons I enjoy Babbel as a sponsor is they have something to give to you. You can get 65% off Babbel. That's less than $5 a month to learn a new language. The link is in the description box below. Hit it up, learn a new language, enhance your travels. Thank you, Babbel. All right, let's talk about these 13 things that can change prior to your cruise. You book a cruise, you get closer to your sail date, and things change. And number one, price. I put price at number one because this is one you want to pay attention to. Imagine you booked a cruise 2 years ago and you're getting closer and closer to your cruise date. Well, prices fluctuate, especially based on supply and demand, and you could be in a situation where the price for your cruise, it decreases. And depending on your cruise line, depending where you're at in your payment cycle, you could benefit from a price decrease, and so you got to keep an eye on it. So one thing you want to put on your to-do list every once in a while, check the price on your cruise, see if it's dropped, reach out to your cruise line and maybe get cash back or some onboard credit. But price can definitely change before your cruise. Number two, and this is very apropos for the situation we are living in today, your health protocols, your safety protocols certainly can change before your cruise. I feel like every cruise I've gone on in 2021 has had some variation to their health and safety protocol from the time I booked to the time I got on board. My very first cruise this year, the health protocols were changing even during the week before the cruise. So another thing that you got to stay on top of, because you don't want to be denied boarding, you don't want to run into any hassles when it comes to the health and safety protocols, know that your health and safety protocols could change before you cruise. Number three, and this one happens more frequently than you would suspect, the itinerary for your cruise changes. Whether they substitute a port, they cancel a port, it's happening a lot. A lot of it's tied to health and safety protocols right now, where we're trying to go to certain places that are just getting open back up. They may decide that they don't want a cruise ship and you may be rerouted. The itinerary change is happening a lot lately, but this happens a lot in general. Sometimes things change. My very first cruise, my itinerary changed because the ship broke. And so I wasn't able to go to Cozumel, for example. I had to go somewhere else. And so you got to be flexible on this. Just know that itinerary that you're booking, it isn't set in stone. In the cruise contract, they write it very plainly that it could change at the cruise line's discretion. And so, itinerary. Number four, more drastic than an itinerary change, is a ship change. That can certainly happen. We've seen that happen before. Just recently, there was a Royal Caribbean ship. I don't remember the name of the ship, but Royal Caribbean decided they wanted to dry dock that ship. And so people were booked on that ship. And then all of a sudden, they got notified that, look, you're no longer going to be on this ship. You're going to be on the Odyssey of the Seas, our newest cruise ship. So for many, that was a positive ship change. But I'm assuming there's some that maybe really like the ship that they booked on, and now they're on a different cruise ship. That does happen when ships get pulled out of service or brought back into service or shifted around. Your ship may change before your cruise. Number 5, also related to itinerary, you may have the length of your cruise changed also. Now, normally the length would be shortened. Again, this sometimes have to do with the cruise ports. It has to do with the situations that's going on during that cruise. But there's plenty of examples out there where a 7-day cruise has become a 5-day cruise. And there are other examples because of weather and those kind of things where a 7-day cruise has become a 9-day cruise. In my mind, this one doesn't happen as frequently as some of the others, but it does happen. The duration, the length of your cruise could change before your cruise. Number 6, and this one comes to mind because it connects to us a little bit. The captain of your cruise ship could change before your cruise. An example, earlier in the year, we booked to be on the Celebrity Edge in November. The main reason we booked the Celebrity Edge is because we wanted to sail with Captain Kate McHugh. This is a big goal for my wife and a big goal for me. I was able to go on the Celebrity Edge earlier and actually meet Captain Kate, which was awesome, but my wife Jenny has not got to meet Captain Kate. And when I was on that earlier cruise, we got word from Captain Kate that she would not be on the cruise ship in November. And I had to relay that message home to Jenny. It was a bummer. And we're no longer going on the Edge in November because, oddly enough, one of the big reasons we went was to meet Captain Kate. And so, yes, most of the time you're not, hanging your hat on who the captain is, but sometimes you are. And your captain can change prior to your cruise. Now, number 7 is closely related to number 6. The cruise director could also change before you cruise. We're going on the Mardi Gras in just a week, and there's a cruise director, Mike Pack, that is going to be there. But originally, the Mardi Gras was cruising with the Flying Scotsman. And we were excited to maybe cruise with the Flying Scotsman, but he's gone before we got there. Again, I don't think most people make a plan around cruise director or captain, but sometimes you know who you're going to run into, and those things could change before you go cruising. Number 8, your weight. This is interesting. Many of us have gone a long period of time without cruising, and many of us were in a different shape the last time we cruised before we cruised again. So when I went cruising for the first time in 2021, I had to get some bigger clothes because my weight had fluctuated up. So this is just something to be mindful. You may have one set of cruise wardrobe when you book your cruise, but when you get closer to your cruise, you may need a different cruise wardrobe. So you can look at it a couple ways. You can be like, I resolve to be the same size when I book the cruise as when I get on the cruise, or you have to buy more clothes. The cheaper option would be to stay the same. But just be mindful that one of the things that can change before your cruise is your weight. Number 9 on the list, your cabin. Your cabin could change. This could happen a couple ways. You could book one cabin, then you would get offered an upgrade. You could change your cabin that way. You could have booked a guaranteed cabin. They could assign you a cabin and then still change that cabin somewhere along the way. Or you may see a cabin that's more favorable to you before your cruise, and you might move to that cabin, adjust your price, that kind of thing. So just because you're locked into a certain cabin that you like, you may move. It happens. Number 10 on my list is your traveling companions could change. A lot of times circumstances change over a multi-year period, over a multi-month period. There are circumstances where the people you plan to travel with are no longer the people that you will be traveling with. Relationships break up, things happen with people's health, and sometimes you're not going to cruise with who you plan to cruise with. That has its own set of challenges that you have to work through with the cruise line. But keep it in mind when you're booking the cruise for 2 years out, if you're booking with your best friend, maybe they're not going to be your best friend in 2 years. So that's something to consider. Be selective with who you cruise with, but know it could change. I got 3 more on the list. The next one's a doozy that I don't see happening a lot, but would be pretty challenging. Before I get there, let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything that's going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Thank you in advance. Number 11 on my list, your embarkation slash debarkation port could change. Now, there's only a couple of major times that I've seen this happen. Most recently is when a hurricane went into New Orleans and knocked out the power. There were cruises scheduled in New Orleans for Carnival, and they're like, yeah, we can't do these cruises. However, we can send you down to Galveston. And so they essentially had the same cruise out of Galveston, and they were redirecting people embarking in New Orleans down to Galveston. Now, fortunately, there was like a week, 10 days that they could make that kind of change. And we've also seen hurricanes shut down debarkation ports. We've seen scenarios where ships supposed to return to Miami or return to Galveston, but because of weather concerns, they couldn't go back there. And so they had to drop passengers off at a different location, which that's got to be a logistical nightmare. But yeah, embarkation, debarkation port could change before your cruise. And now on to number 12 on my list. You can see a change in your travel agent or who booked your cruise. This one's interesting. A lot of people will book with the cruise line, and sometimes they'll transfer their cruise over to a travel agent. Or people will book with a travel agent, and maybe during this 2-year process, they're not working well with their travel agent. They may want to move it to another travel agent. We've had that happen before where we were working with one person, and then eventually we ended up working with another person. We've had that deal where we've worked with the cruise line, but then we worked with the travel agent. I think it's important to know for people that are spending money on cruises that if you're getting service that is subpar or service that you're not in touch with, that you don't feel like you're getting what you need, you don't necessarily have to stay with the way that you booked your cruise. There could be options. And so, yeah, travel agent could change before your cruise. And number 13 on the list is one that we've seen a lot recently. The programs offered on the cruise ship could change prior to your cruise. We've seen this as cruising has restarted. People that have cruising booked with kids, they may end up on a cruise ship that doesn't have kids club because of capacity, not enough people on board to have kids club. I had it a couple times cruising this year. I went on Celebrity Edge. I went to the Eden dinner, and that used to have a show. But it no longer had a show. Also, I went on MSC this year that used to have a Cirque du Soleil show that I was excited about. They didn't have that show anymore. Some of the other venues were closed down. So, especially during the cruise restart here in 2021, one thing that may change before you get on the cruise is what they're offering. What they might have been offering when you book your cruise may not be what they're offering when you get on the cruise. And again, cruise lines are smart. Cruise contracts are written in a way where you can't really raise that much of a fuss about it. They write a lot of things may change language into their contract. So that's why I laid this list out here so that you would have some idea what to be prepared for. Again, we talk about packing your patience, and you add this knowledge to your patience, and hopefully it keeps you from freaking out when you get on your cruise. There you go, practical cruise tips that I think you could use. 13 things that may change before your cruise. I'm sure the list is longer. Jump down in the comments and tell me something that has changed before you cruise, or something else that maybe I missed. Thanks so much for watching the episode today. Please show your support by hitting the like button. And if you want more cruise tips, here's 10 mistakes that first-time cruisers make. Check that out. This is Tony with Lido, Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.